Thank you so much for talking with us today, Eleanor. I'm very interested in finding out what your thoughts are about how you see the history of humanistic psychology, because I understand that you have been a part of our movement for quite a long time, and what you think about the future of humanistic psychology.
I have been a part of it. I have been a part of humanistic psychology since before it was called humanistic psychology. So it's very near and dear to me because it represents the spirit really that was behind the founding of our United States, and also it's the founding of that spirit within the whole world. We just echoed it. It's a repetition of it in the United States. It came prior to that. And so I think it's every human being's right to be treated as having worth and dignity, and the need to actualize their potential, the right to actualize his or her potential. So for me, humanistic psychology was a rebellion against behaviorism, as you all know, behaviorism and psychoanalytic psychotherapy. But it's more than that. It was always more than that. We used to talk about it as being particularly a philosophy, not so much a practice, but a philosophy that underlines all sorts of approaches. So there's so many things I could say about this, Donna. In a sense, humanistic psychology won the war but lost the battle. I've gotten which way that goes, because it has remained a small endeavor in psychology, but its principles have permeated all of psychology. So we won that in spreading those attitudes and understandings and so forth.
So would you say that you feel that the other orientations of psychology, like even psychodynamics and cognitive behavioral therapy, are infused with humanistic values?
I think they frequently are. So I have also infused with them because I am extremely eclectic. So in my core, I'm a humanistic psychologist, but I have used behavioristic principles in my work with biofeedback, and certainly now in working with horses, a certain way of working with them in a natural way includes both classical conditioning and operant conditioning. And cognitive therapy includes some of those principles as well, as you are training cognitive restructuring and all sorts of things. But even this, I taught development of the person, or lifespan development, for many years. And so the whole Freudian psychoanalytic understandings are all part of looking at development and is valuable information. And so I have become more eclectic.
So it sounds like you're also saying more inclusive.
Yeah, more inclusive. But I'm also East and West inclusive, and inclusive of all kinds of dimensions, but with a core that is humanistic psychology, and the principles of humanistic psychology inform everything that I do. Even, for example, my work with horses now. It's very horse-centered, and it includes all the principles. But in everything, the principles inform it all. So for me, humanistic psychology is incredibly important. And it's going to be needed more and more in the world as we move along, and as the world becomes more technologized and people are coming along. They are going to need all of those principles as part of their living a life that's full and meaningful and so forth.
So the values of self-responsibility and unconditional positive regard or unconditional regard, you think those are important and
Yeah, and accurate empathy and living authentically, being able to be who you really are. And all of those things are very, very important. And also, as we move along technologically, ethics, which have a strong humanistic psychology core, I think, are incredibly important. So we don't leave them behind as we change and shift the ways things are done and so forth. Very important.
Do you have any suggestions on how to make sure that those core humanistic values are included in this new changing global marketplace?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that has to be person to person. So those, we are all, well, I like to think of humanistic psychology as being an emergence. And so it is an emergence of a change in a way of being. It came in when it came in, late 50s, early 60s, into the 60s, but it was ahead of its time. Its time is still coming. And so we individually will need to carry it into these different arenas. And all of us helping. I think one of the things of this conference is getting a sense of we the people and the things we are doing, the things we can do, the places where we can make a difference. And that's the way we're going to need to do it. We do need to do it on a more person-to-person basis, coming into those systems and institutions and so forth.
So,
and speaking about it and writing about it and bringing it up and living it and all those. What?
So it sounds like you're saying that as we become more versed in the theories and values of humanistic psychology, to carry them into the institutions in which we work and create a humanistic environment there through our own being, our own way of being.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. Because this is a slightly different topic, but there is, but it, of course very related, huge amount of suffering in the world. Huge amount. And to change that, we have to change people's sense of self, sense of somatic self, comfort in the world. And we have to do that person to person. We have to do each one teach one. We have to spread it in that way, because that's the only way that we can make a vast difference.
So humanistic psychology is known as sort of person-centered. So does this come out of that orientation?
Yeah, but person-centered in the sense of, yes, person-centered, but then the person is part of a family, a community, a region, and so forth, and we are part of the whole. We are part of our environment.
Part of the whole planet.
You were part of the whole planet. And that's one of the things I love now is the global interconnection, which has been developing. I like that very much.
And what do you think about healthcare today and how we can make it more valuable to the person?
Well, one of the things that has happened is that people are becoming more aware of needing to be in charge of their own health care. They know they need to do it, and they are doing it. They are researching it. They are, being a part of planning in various circumstances and in the implementation of the plan and all of that. There is more individual responsibility that people are taking. And I think the message that you have to be responsible for your own health care, even though you are using the medical system as you need to, you still have to be aware of it all and self-regulating and participating in the decisions and so forth.
How do you think we can make healthcare in the United States more humanistic?
Well, there have been attempts to do that. For example, there was humanistic medicine. There was, I think there was even a little association for it years ago. I think medicine has been humanizing itself. There is self-care nursing. There's all sorts of different ways of going about humanizing it. And I think also as we bring integrative health in and those kinds of bringing together of the other disciplines, of the different traditions, and all of that is encouraging a humanization of it.
So do you think in the face of a corporate culture and commercialization and profit margin, there's still hope for a humanistic medical system?
I think there is, but it has to be done by the people. So yes, there is that corporate medical world, but even so, you can have a sense of being in charge of your own health care and your own decisions and your own understanding of your... And also, for example, I think it's something like 36 million people now practicing yoga in the United States. So they are doing some things to change their lifestyle to a more healthy lifestyle, and all of that changes the relationship to the healthcare system.
So what you're saying is so interesting to me, because now it's not just the doctor's responsibility to cure me, and I'm not just going to complain about the medical system, but I need to look at my own life and my own wellness plan for myself and look at what am I doing as notion of self-responsibility to keep myself well. For example, yoga or...
Yeah, many people that I talk to are making decisions like that. They're saying, I may live quite a while. I want to be sure that I can live fully during all those years. I need to make these kinds of choices so that I can comfortably stay in my own home, or be still involved in the sports that I love or the other activities that I love, and all of that. And I think that's a spreading awareness.
Yes, I guess maybe as the baby boomers age as well, we're going to need to step up to the plate and take better care of ourselves, and not just come to the medical establishment sick, but figure out how to stay well, as you're saying.
Yes, and another thing, and I hate to say this, but many people are finding that it's difficult to deal with the medical system because people are overworked and understaffed. They can't get an appointment. They're going to get an appointment months from now, et cetera, et cetera. So they need to be more self-responsible. They can't turn to the medical system to take care of them except a certain amount.
It's so interesting because that's such a core theme of humanistic psychology, is self-responsibility.
I know. And it's so good for people, actually. It's very empowering. It helps them get a sense of they are living their life's purpose. And what were you going to say?
Yeah, and thus, it's not about an external sort of paternal daddy take care of me. I know I ate too many hamburgers, but what am I going to do to keep myself well? So maybe I don't need to spend so much time in the managed healthcare system.
Yeah, right. And I'm going to make my own. I'm going to research it. The internet has been very helpful along those lines. I'm going to research what this is all about and what my options are, and I'm going to make some of those decisions myself.
And you see us moving more in that direction of people taking responsibility for their own wellness?
I am seeing that, but I may have a biased population. But I think it's spread to a certain degree.
It's probably, perhaps, getting toward a critical mass.
Yeah, I think so.
I was wondering if you just might, in closing, maybe give me a couple of memories of when humanistic psychology started and what it was like then.
Oh, I'd love to, but I'd like to tell you one more thing about my sense of where I'd like to see humanistic psychology go. I would like to see it include more neuroscience. because the findings from neuroscience can be very supportive of the principles of humanistic psychology, and not to be afraid of that, but to allow it to inform things. And I have done that most all of my career, so I can speak from personal experience on that.
And the mindfulness movement. And
yes, the mindfulness movement. Wonderful. And bringing in awareness. You know, we've talked about awareness over the years, but the mindfulness movement really brings in awareness. And also Thomas Hanna was talking about the soma as the body experience from within. Mindfulness is experiencing the body from within. It's a wonderful integration of mind and body. So,
and mindfulness honors neuroscience.
yes, it's done. Research has been very helpful for the mindfulness movement.
And the idea of inflammation and how neuroscience can help in that regard, just understanding how the mind and body work together and affect one another.
Yeah, it confirms everything in a way. Yes, in fact, it does help. You can feel it helping, yeah. So memories. Oh my goodness. I remember when there weren't very many humanistic psychologists around. And when I first connected with the Association for Humanistic Psychology, I volunteered to be a liaison officer to sort of help encourage people to become more involved with it. And so my notion was that they needed an opportunity to be able to study it if they wanted to become a humanistic psychologist. So I've tried in various ways to help make that possible. So when I first came to San Francisco, I asked John Levy, who was executive director of AHP, where does a humanistic psychologist get a job around here? And he told me to go to Sonoma State University, which was one of the original humanistic psychology departments. So in those days, humanistic psychology was so exciting to people, and the whole human potential movement. It was galvanizing people, transforming their lives, and the ripples out from it have continued. Like there are people here at this conference whose lives were changed at that time, and their careers have followed that path, and that's how they've lived their lives.
So do you see a sense of promise in the future for these values, ideas, notions of how to live a full, healthy life?
You know, one of the things I have thought is that if humanistic psychology disappeared, it would have to be reinvented, because it is the natural way. It is natural. It is part of nature. All plants, all animals, every living being actualizes its potential. Same with human beings. So it's not, it is there, and it's going to continue. It might have be small organizationally, because it is spread into so many other things so much. It's not the only place where you can find humanistic psychology, right? You can find it in all kinds of areas, and you know, even applied in business now. Many of our businesses, our startups and our innovators use humanistic psychology principles in all kinds of ways.
So sort of like a blade of grass finds its way through the cement of the sidewalk. You think if humanistic psychology somehow disappeared, it would have to find its way.
Right. That's what I think. That's what I think.
And what's your greatest hope for the future?
Oh, that human beings will live in peace and harmony, and everyone has an opportunity to develop fully and live their lives as comfortably as possible and as creatively, and you know, those kinds of things. But at this point, I'm not sure it's going to happen like that. It's probably going to be a a balance of disruptive things and peace and harmony things and total ongoing dance of those forces. And a very dear friend of mine told me once that drama includes conflict. You can't have drama without conflict, so we're not going to get rid of it totally. But creative ways, symbolic ways of working with it, all sorts of other ways of dealing with it might be possible in the future.
Thank you, Eleanor.
You're welcome.